Just coming up to 11 minutes past 4, you're listening to the afternoon show with me, Jo Good. So we were talking about female entrepreneurship last week, and a lovely listener, Trudy, emailed me and said, 6 months ago, I took a massive step and opened up my own shop. Now, to go back in time and open up a shop that is basically a haberdashery is a big risk, isn't it? Or is it? Because they say we are revisiting all of these safe places, nostalgia, because it makes us feel safe and cosy. Let's find out if it is a success or not, because Trudy Armstrong, who is littlewoollie.co.uk, a haberdashers in Bromley, joins me on the afternoon show. Oh. Welcome. And can I just say thank you, because you came in, you know the way to my heart, my dog, and you've just brought in a crocheted version of my dog Matilda.
You're welcome, Jo. More than welcome.
Did you design this as well as crochet it?
No, it was a pattern that I adapted, and I tried to make her mouth look like Matilda's mouth, like I'd see with her little teeth.
It is, and also her black eyes and her lovely white fur. Right, now, Trudy, you are, I didn't know what to expect. You are really young and you're very, very groovy. You're not what you'd think of as a typical looking haberdasher. So why did you decide to risk everything, really? Because you put a lot into this, money and time and everything else.
About 5 years ago, I got back into crocheting. My nan taught me to crochet when I was a child, and 5 years ago I reconnected with it. And I'm just sitting there crocheting, thinking, I just want to do this all day long, and came up with the idea for the shop, and it took off from there, really.
And how easy was it? Because I loved your email when you said, I'd never run a business, I'm not a businesswoman, you're a mum, you've got a family. You said, I had more nightmares with the chip and pin, which I can totally relate to, because we were using a chip and pin when we were trying to sell our book, and it was just 1 in every 3 worked. In the end, one girl, can you believe this, we sold the book to in Wales, had paid for it 4 times over. We were so embarrassed. But it's a nightmare, isn't it, all of that stuff?
It really is. And the thing is, when I decided to open a shop and open a business, I'd never done anything like that before. I had a career in the city, and then had a little break and worked part-time in estate agents. When I started looking for premises, there was nothing available in my price range. The high street's so expensive with business rates and stuff. And then I'm working in this estate agent, and my boss says he's going to move premises and expand. And I think, well, actually, I'm going to stay here, because it was a really lovely little shop. So my boss and the estate agents moved out, and I took over their premises.
Over. Oh, brilliant. So you knew the area and everything else?
Yeah, it was actually opposite my children's primary school.
Right.
And then last year, my youngest daughter went off to secondary, and it was kind of a pivotal year for me. So it was kind of like, right, now's the time to do something for myself again.
So do you remember, what do you do in that situation? Do you get a business plan? Is that what you have to do? Or do
I did do a business plan, and my husband said, what's the business case? And I said, well, I'm not sure about the business case, but I know there's going to be a demand for it. I just had a really strong gut feeling that it was going to be successful.
And this was 6 months ago?
Yes, it was.
And I remember when I was on the Late Show, we talked a great deal about knitting circles that have come back. I think there's even one on the Underground, isn't there? Isn't there a group of women who just go round and round on the Metropolitan? Is it on the circle?
But there's a knitting group locally to where I live in the local pub, yeah.
Yeah. And, so you have timed it. And then, as I was saying, one of my relatives I met at the weekend had gone all the way down to Sussex to buy wool because she couldn't find any in Brixton. So obviously you would be closer than Sussex. So there is, wool shops are needed, aren't they?
Well, there aren't very many in our area at all, and there's nowhere that sells the kind of yarn that I sell. So it's really lovely yarn, but at a really reasonable price.
What makes your yarn different?
Well, I import it from Sweden, so I use the Drops brand, and it's kind of Little Woolie's flagship yarn, if you like, and we choose it from Sweden, and yeah.
And is it still, I just, as I'm talking to you, I remember the wool shop as a child when I was growing up, and it was still the skeins of wool, or balls of wool, I suppose there, would all be up above in sort of little open lockers that you'd have the wool. Is it still, do you still sell like that? Is it even groovier now?
It is. It's a cornucopia of colour when you come into my shop, and it's all in its little pockets, and there's every colour you can imagine.
And so for me, who was a knitted generation, if you look at pictures of me and my brother, we were just head to toe all on, actually. Which is, I think, a man-made wool that you got electric shocks, but all on had just come into fashion because you could wash it. That was it. And we were all knitted babies. Is that now coming back?
I think there's a massive trend back into it. I think there's a generation where knitting and sewing is completely bypassed, so they don't teach it at schools anymore to any great extent, unless you choose textiles for a GCSE. And there's a whole generation of people who just don't know how to knit and crochet.
Yes. Isn't that a shame? I mean, what was that called? Home studies or something?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not being taught at school. So
no, they get 6 weeks on a rotation, and they don't actually at all knitting or garment making at all. It's all about product design and making a little soft toy. I mean, the teachers do a great job with the time they've got,
yes,
but they don't have enough time dedicated to it at all.
It's so, isn't it? I think they've said, you know, when we've gone through times of austerity, we immediately kick back and go back to what we want. So hand knitted sweaters now that I want all the time. You know, you pay a fortune, don't you, to find a hand-knitted sweater, whereas when I was a kid I never wanted one. I wanted one that had been made by a machine. I
think people now want something that's made and that's individual to them, and I think that's a massive difference about my shop, is people come in and want to choose fabric and then some rick-rack to put on it and some really lovely buttons, and obviously Little Woolie can supply all that.
Yes. I have a friend who presented Magpie. People will listen to this, a children's programme. It was the ITV racy equivalent of Blue Peter. And this was during the 60s and 70s, and they would literally at 5 o'clock in the afternoon teach you how to sew and make patches and things like that. I doubt if that happens anymore. Does it on television?
I don't see it anywhere. Obviously, we've had the Great British Sewing Bee, which has inspired everyone massively, and the amount of people coming in who have watched it and really want to get back into sewing. I mean, we teach sewing, knitting, crochet and patchwork, so we've got all those classes going on to help people get back into.
And is that in the shop you teach?
We teach knitting and crochet in the shop because it's a really tiny little space, but patchwork and dressmaking we run in a local church hall.
So is it really taking off, Trudy?
It's absolutely fabulous, but the lovely thing is everyone who comes in the shop is nice to talk to because they all like the things that I like, so I spend my day doing something lovely with lovely people. Does
anyone come in your shop and say, like me, can you cast on and cast off? Because I can get up and running. I've never been able to cast on or off. Would you help someone out if they ran in with...
Yeah, I mean, I've got an amazing... my best mum's friend teaches my knitting class, and she's been knitting for 50 years, called Sandra, and we have Sandra's surgery on a Friday. For everyone, anyone can pop in and we can teach them what to do.
Can you? Because could you then learn to knit on 4 needles? Because I think that's how you make socks, isn't it?
That's right. My mum actually knits socks on 4 needles, and she teaches my sock knitting. So we've got a bit of a family thing going on in the shop with people teaching. And my sister-in-law teaches the patchwork.
This is from Max. Max, who's listening in Lewisham. Oh, I love these socks. So we've just bought some in. This is who did those?
My mum made these socks,
and they're like a Fair Isle pattern, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And they're not, because you think hand knitted socks you never get your shoes on, but these are really thin.
They're absolutely gorgeous.
How long would it take to knit a pair like that?
I think it takes my mum about 2 or 3 days.
Well done. They would cost a fortune if you went to Liberty's or somewhere like that. This is from Max in Lewisham, who says, Joe, I love Drops yarn that your speaker is mentioning. I knitted a dress from it a couple of years ago. Whenever friends or family have babies, I knit a little bear for them. Occasionally I knit jumpers for birthday and Christmas presents, and I really enjoy it. Thank you, Max, for that. I think that's Maxine, by the way. This is from Vivian, who's listening in Palmer's Green. Joe, I'm loving your programme. The last thing I knitted were Starsky jackets for my 3 sons. What are Starsky?
Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, Starsky. Oh, yes. Oh, there you go. That dates you. Yes, fans of Starsky and Hutch. I wish I had the patience now. However, I used to knit and sew because it was less expensive than buying when I was on a tighter budget. Perhaps I will get back into crocheting. The thing about crocheting is it grows quickly, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I have a lot more success with crochet because I crochet left-handed, but my mum taught me to knit right-handed because she couldn't teach me to knit left-handed. So I crochet.
You left-handed then?
I am left-handed, but I teach right and left-handed crochet. I can do it both ways.
Crochet is great, but what would you make? I mean, it's sort of baby shawls, I suppose. What else?
You can do absolutely loads with crochet. It's fantastic, I think, for things for the home. For example, I've made a lovely bath mat.
Oh, let me have a look. Oh, see, all of this is
So it's absolutely lovely.
This
Cotton.
is the sort of stuff, seriously, if you went into, I'm not going to name the places, they would charge a fortune. This is colourful crocheting. Well, it's not panels, actually. Is it hexagons?
Hexagons.
All of is this the yarn you were talking about?
Yes, it is, the drops yarn, yeah.
Because it's like it's like a cotton.
It's cotton, yeah. It's cotton, and so it's perfect for a bath mat.
How much would that cost you? If you went into the Conran shop or something, that would cost a fortune.
But that would only take you a couple of days, Jo.
You're joking. It would take me a lot longer than that. But so anyone who's listening, what stitch is that then?
They're treble stitches.
Treble
and it's
stitch.
Yeah.
Don't laugh, when I was growing up in Australia, I learnt to crochet with a Knitting Nancy. Have you heard of Knitting Nancy?
No, I haven't.
I know, people will get the wrong conclusion. It was a wooden doll that had 4 pegs around the top, and it was a chain stitch.
Oh.
And it would come out its bottom, this long chain, which you could then make in placemats. The only thing you could do is coil it, but you could make placemats, mats, basically.
Like French knitting it.
French knitting.
Yes, that's it.
It's exactly that, but we called it Knitting Nancy. What is it? Because people, I love beanies. You know the hats that you could make out of, what's the white wool? Aran
Yes. White wool, yeah.
So with a hat, would you need 4 needles?
No, with a hat you can either knit on a circular needle or you can crochet a hat as well. So there's lots of different ways to do it.
What about knitting machines? Are they out now?
I think they are. I don't really get anyone coming in to asking for any bits for it or supplies for them. So
There was a time when the spare room in your parents' home would be your mum's knitting machine. And she'd be up there for hours knitting stuff that didn't look handmade, so there was no point to it, you know.
No, they were trying. I mean, people set up their own business. I'm thinking of Kathy on EastEnders. She had a knitting machine, didn't she? Selling them on the market, yeah.
Now, you brought your husband and family in. How many men do you get knitting? Because it is. When I've talked about it on air before, we have had blokes knitting, actually.
I know it is quite popular with some men, and I know there's a shop on Lower Marsh Street that has quite a lot of men in there. We don't get that many men in my shop looking for wool and yarn.
See,
and
the
knitting.
older ones who'd been through the Navy, I think Pete Sport, who works here, who's ex-Navy, I'm sure he's going to kill me if I've got this wrong, I'm sure he knitted or sewed or something from Navy days.
I think a lot of people in the army had to knit their own socks, so a lot of people were taught to knit socks in the army for sure, yeah.
This is from Keith in Caterham, who says, "Hi Joe and guest. Harry Truman, who was the 33rd president of the US between 45 and 53, was a haberdasher before he became the leader of the free world. He opened a haberdashery together with his close friend Edward Jacobson in Kansas City, but the store went bankrupt. The noun haberdasher means seller of various small articles of trade. It derived from the Anglo-French 14th century, which means the noun means habertus, which means small wares. So I guess you sell everything then. So it's cottons, needles, wools, patterns.
We sell ribbon and braid, rick-rack, buttons to die for, yeah. So everything on the haberdashery thing we try and stock, but it is a really tiny shop, so you could have thousands and thousands of lines and sell, and you know it would cost you thousands and thousands of pounds. So it's choosing what you think's going to go. Really.
Yes, I live around the corner from. Is it Rollo? What is the ribbon shop? Rollo.
I don't
Trudy's
know.
looking at me, so I'm mad. What is it, Lisa? You must know. It's a ribbon shop that just sells, and it's in French. It just sells ribbon.
Wow.
And it's the sort of thing you think, how can this survive? And it does. It's always busy, you see. Vivi Rollo. Vuvu Rollo. Gosh, forgive me if I've got it wrong. But yeah, there's always, because the department stores used to sell all this stuff, didn't they?
I mean, there used to be department stores in Bromley selling it, but that closed down about 6 or 7 years ago, and there's nothing where we are now. And people come in my shop and go, oh my word, this is a dangerous shop. Isn't
it lovely? Because they want to sit and do. Can you watch EastEnders and knit at the same time?
I don't watch EastEnders, but I can watch TV and crochet at the same time, yeah. I can multitask on that front.
I just think that is such an asset. And we're asking, what is the last thing you ever made? And do you have a haberdashery where you live? If not, how far do you have to travel? Have you taught your daughters?
They both like sewing, and we do a lot of little sewing projects together. They haven't learnt to crochet because it's just too... They need that instant gratification, and I don't think they get that with crochet yet. But they're all saying, Mum, can you make that? Mum, can you do that? Mum, can you do that? So they give me lots of projects.
And have you... I mean, what's the biggest thing, clothing, that you've made? Would you crochet a dress? Remember in the 60s, they used to have those crochet dresses that you had to then line because everything stuck through them.
See-through. I've done... My most recent thing that I've done to wear is a poncho.
Oh, fantastic. Well, they're never out of fashion.
No, it's absolutely gorgeous. And a lady came in on Saturday and she had a poncho that she'd actually crocheted 30 years ago, and she said, I want to make one like this. And it was still in really good nick. I can't believe it.
Well, the thing about crochet, I don't think it stretches, does it? It keeps its shape, which is fantastic. I am so in awe of you. Well done for making it work. Do you think you might franchise and have them on every street corner?
My husband's pushing me in a lot of different directions from that point of view, but I'm kind of, we've only been open 6 months, let's see how it goes. And I think it's a lovely, sweet, bijou little place. And I think, it's cute in its own right as it is.
Well done, you. It's called Little Woolies, and it's in... Shortlands in Bromley, and I've been talking to Trudy Strong, and from now on we're going to take your calls. Well done, Trudy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Jo.